Hello, everybody, and welcome to our Atlantic White Shark Conservancy's Sharks in Conservation Week. We hope that you are all doing well on this Wednesday morning. The two amazing men that are with me today is Captain Josh Higgins and then Pilot Wayne Davis. You guys want to give a wave to everybody?
How about a salute?
And say hello to everyone. So today, guys, we are going to be interviewing Josh and Wayne about their careers and how they got to where they are today. But Wayne and Josh, how are you guys doing this morning?
Pretty good, Marianne. Kristen, excuse me.
Doing wonderful, Kristen. Wonderful.
Yep.
It's okay. It's easy to confuse us too.
Good to see the sun out here in Cape Cod. I'm in Orleans, Massachusetts, and it's sunny out, and I can't wait to get outside and do some mountain biking and get some fresh air. Yes,
Wayne, and where are you zooming us from?
I am in Snug Harbor, Rhode Island, 4130 70 something on the chart.
That's lat lawn.
In my yard.
Awesome. I love the specifics. So we have Captain Josh Higgins and Wayne Davis. And Wayne, I'm going to start with you for my questions today. So my first question is, so you can tell everybody, where do you work and what is your job?
Well, I don't work, but I do have a hobby, and it's flying an airplane for, oh, there's my airplane, for the Atlantic White Shark Conservancy. Strictly summertime gig, looking for sharks on Cape Cod.
Awesome.
And
yes.
Go ahead.
No, keep going.
And in the wintertime, I work on a pilot boat, which I'm currently furloughed from because of the pandemic.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. So you have a really awesome office. So as everyone can see here, this is the plane that Wayne does fly up here off of Cape Cod during that shark research season here. So Wayne, you have a pretty cool office. I'm sure a lot of people would like to, fly for their part-time gig. So what got you to be able to do this awesome position during the summer?
Well, it was kind of a long story. I was born in Galilee, the fishing village that is Point Judith. I grew up in a fishing family. Of course, I became a fisherman. And in my teenage years, we would go sword fishing in the summertime, on a boat. And back in those days, late 50s, early 60s, it was the budding fish spotting industry. There were a few fish spotters out there, just a couple, who were my parents' generation, and it was kind of inspiring for me to think about learning to fly. And so I did, got an airplane, and been doing it ever since.
Yeah, that's awesome. So for a lot of people, when they think of an airplane, they might think of something, very, maybe more spacious, maybe something like you would if you're flying for vacation somewhere. But for you, Wayne, you have a little more of a tight quarters. And I always love this photo of you flying because it just shows kind of what space you're working with when you are flying. So can you kind of explain what you're doing in this photo?
Yeah, well, I'm in a circle here over the beach, circling a shark, and no doubt the boat is down there. John King with the Aleutian Dream, working a shark, and I'm probably taking a picture of a shark alongside of the boat, which is part of the population study. We want to make a comparison photo for each shark while alongside the boat, and that's what I'm doing there. And this is, looks like that's up off Nauset Beach, south somewhere, I believe. Mm-hmm. And that's half of my job: finding a shark and then taking pictures of it, and of course, directing the boat to each shark, because people who've never been out there, or some people who go to the Cape hoping to see a shark, you're almost never going to find one because they're quite difficult to find from being on a boat. Doing the observation yourself from a boat alone is very difficult. So you got to have a fish spotter.
Yeah, and a lot of people, maybe if they're not really as familiar with the conservancy as some of our followers are, when they see these incredible aerial photographs that you are taking, they might not realize there could be maybe someone else that is in the plane taking them, but it's really all you, Wayne. You are flying the plane, you are navigating the research boat to that shark, you're taking photos, you are opening and closing that window, which looks like it's being held together by a shoelace. So,
No,
you're
it's
doing a lot
actually
of moving
a
parts.
fishing line.
Ah, okay. Okay. But so, you're doing a lot of these things and really multitasking here while doing this job and taking these incredible photographs while doing it, right?
Yeah, it's the average person, if someone who hasn't done it, who hasn't been with me, it sounds very complicated, but anything becomes second nature. The airplane pretty much flies itself. You get in a circle, it's stable, and I keep my camera in my lap all day long, strapped onto my neck, and something comes up, I circle it and pick up my camera and take a picture.
Yeah. Awesome. And then I always love this photo because we always joke with you that your favorite breakfast is a burrito, or maybe you're eating your sweet potatoes throughout the day. But I found this photo on your Facebook and I just share it about your office space itself, and how, what your setup is when you're in your plane. That's the seat right behind you. And when you're up flying for more than 4 hours or so at a time. So you need to really be prepared for anything during your day. So I just wanted to share that photo as well to kind of show people that, you have to be really prepared for anything when you are flying, right?
Yeah, that's my lunch bag on the floor down in the bottom of it, and all the other paraphernalia. But in my swordfish and tuna days, anything less than 10 hours in the air was like a day off, honestly. And I spent many, many days when I had all 3 meals flying. So
yeah,
I was well supplied.
Which is good. So we're going to switch from air to sea. And Josh, this is your office view, completely different, a lot more closer to the water, hanging out on boats or docks some days. So Josh, can you explain about where you work and what is your job?
Sure. I work for the Chatham Bars Inn, and I am the fleet captain there, which has a little bit of office duty along with a lot of duty on the water. We've got 6 boats, and I do anything from whale watches to sailing trips to shuttles to the beach. We'll do some lobstering, and of course the great white shark expeditions with the Atlantic White Shark Conservancy and Wayne. So I spend a lot of time on boats with people, and it lasts, of course, the summer. But the office part of my job kind of lingers into the shoulder seasons and even some of the winter to do some preparation for the season in the beginning of the year, and then some wrap up and close down procedures on the other end of the year.
Awesome. So what led you to your current position at CBI?
Well, I grew up in Orleans. I'm a Cape Codder. I grew up in Orleans. I've been on the water around this area for a long time. I was in the boat business in another aspect. I was in the marina world, just down the street in Chatham at Outermost Harbor Marine. So I've been familiar with Chatham Bars Inn and the people there for a long time. And when I started to wanting to spend more time on the water versus less time in an office, I looked for something that was, a good job that I could have, meaningful employment throughout the year, and found Chatham Bars Inn to be somewhere that's kind of a natural fit. I knew the waterway, I knew the people there, very familiar with the boats and what we do. So it was a natural fit, and it's been a fun ride. It's been an exciting experience to share with a lot of people.
Yeah, and so just as we were showing with Wayne, kind of his office, and his office, we should say, in his plane, some of these days, Josh is, spending his days out on the ocean and out on the water, but then he did share with us some of these days out on the, where, you're not doing your awesome days out on the water, but you're doing more of those boat maintenance type things. So do you want to go into that?
Sure. Yeah, boating is a lot more or being a captain has a lot more to do with just driving the boat. You know, in this picture, the big picture, I'm doing varnish work. That's stripping the wood, the protective coating, and the ends up looking really good, prettying up the boat. Of course, that's a fishing boat there. That is my exhaust manifold that I had a leak on. So, you know, you gotta know your boat. You gotta take care of your boat. You gotta take care of your fleet of boats that you're in charge of, so to speak. You know, so there's a lot goes into running a boat, as Wayne, I'm sure, will speak to as far as an airplane. Of course, you're up flying. You want to make sure your airplane's running well, and you're out on the water. You want to make sure your boat's running well. So there's a lot that goes into it. Being, you know, from being responsible to the people on your boat to the boat itself. Of course, you want to stay floating and make sure you can still get where you're going and get back home. Of course. So yeah, there's a lot of things that you'll learn, especially if you start out young in the boat business or in boating in general. Just you get familiar with your boats, you get to know what things sound like, and when things are right and when things are wrong. So if you have a suspicion, you get to the point where you've run boats for a while, being a captain for a while, you can really sense when something's wrong early on, and you know, pay attention to it and see if you can get on top of the problem and find out what's there. It's all part of being a good captain, is being a well-versed person in all realms of the boating world.
Yeah, and speaking of being a well-versed boat captain, we did have a question come in asking, how many different types of boats can you drive, Josh?
Well, I have a captain's license, which we can talk about at any point. I don't know if you can see it on the screen. It's a federal license. I can, in order to take somebody, here's the license. This is what the captain's license does. So in order to take people out for a job, in other words, for a career, you need to have a license, and we can go into details about that, or we can, you know, the Coast Guard. It's a federal. Anyway, long story short, I can run a motorboat up to 100 tons. I can run a sailboat up to 100 tons, and I can tow. So I can be engaged in what they call commercial assistance towing. So power or steam is what the license says. I'll read it to you. Self-propelled vessels, including auxiliary sail of less than 100 gross registered tons. And I have assistance towing and some other certifications here from the Coast Guard. So the Coast Guard limits you by tonnage. So size of the boat essentially is your experience is conducive with the size of boat that you're legally allowed to run. Mm-hmm. If you want to take a boat out with your family, you do not need a captain's license. And so you can go out and purchase a boat or jump on someone's boat and drive around. Your state, if you're a younger person, your state will most likely have a certificate that you'll need to get. If you're under a certain age, that depends on what state you live in. But you don't need a license to drive a boat. You don't have to have any kind of formal training. You can buy a boat and drive away. In order to make it a career, you need to have a captain's license to do that.
Awesome. Thank you for explaining that then more. So for Wayne and Josh, I know for the few times that I've been out on the boat with you, Josh, and the one lucky day I got to fly with you, Wayne, you know, we do have some challenges while being out, you know, either flying or being out on the water. So let's start with you, Wayne. What can be some of those kind of hurdles or difficulties during a day out flying?
The biggest hurdle in any pilot's career is keeping an eye on the weather. Mm-hmm. And, you know, luckily, well, some of my old fish spotting friends used to call Chatham the home of fog. And fog is always a threat at Chatham. And there are many days when I'd be out flying for the Conservancy when there's a lot of fog around. Oh, there you go. And well, that's just that's light fog. But and there have been some days when I've literally had my eye on the airport all day long, in anticipation of having to beat the fog before the airport gets covered up. But you know, of course, mechanical. And as Josh said, you know, when you're with a piece of machinery and it's it's a powered piece of machinery. You get to know what sounds right and what doesn't, and it's quite obvious when even when it's very, very minor. So, but weather is the big thing, and of course, an airplane. You know, you got to keep an airplane running, and there are a lot of distractions in my end of the business, and the big distraction is there's the view right there. Yeah, you're always looking out the window and seeing what's going on. A lot to see.
Yes, and then Josh, what about you?
Well, I like to stay on the track with Wayne there. We share a lot of similarities, as far as weather and machinery, of course. But yeah, you really want to watch. I get up first thing in the morning. I check the weather. I check the weather probably even when I'm not running a boat. I'm checking the weather probably every hour to notice what's going on, changes, what's going to happen, further down. The sea's going to build. Is it going to be dangerous coming back in? Weather is everything. When it has control over you on the water, it decides, where we go and what we do and how we do it. Fog is something that, on an airplane, that's a whole different deal. On the water, I can navigate a little safer obviously with flying, they have instruments to get through that stuff, but it does make it difficult to land and take off when you can't see where you're going. In a boat, I do have a radar, which lets me see through the fog and the dark to navigate, but it does make things easier as far as what we're doing. But yeah, weather, and maintenance. Take care of your boat, and make sure you got full tank of fuel, and you've got good weather, and you're gonna set yourself up for success and having a good day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And looking at the photo, it would be my bottom left for myself, but for Josh, that bottom photo of you, it looks like the boat that you're on kind of is like going over that like wave right there.
Yeah.
That's something else you always have to look forward to and look out for when you're out on the water is waves, because the ocean does have them. But that is an awesome shot. And Wayne, you took that shot, correct?
Yeah, that was
both the ones in the bottom there.
Josh was underway to get over that wave before the wave got him. And something I might add, with a lot of people who are listening, I don't know how many are listening, but Josh and I worked together, me flying an airplane, he running his tour boat for Chatham Bars Inn, and Josh and I worked together for several seasons now. And it used to be that Josh would take his tour out to follow the research boat as the Conservancy did the research with Dr. Scommel aboard, and Josh would kind of like tag along. But last summer we started a new gig, 3 days a week, 2 trips a day, with just me going out flying and Josh with his gang of people aboard, and was strictly like an eco tours thing and not working with the Conservancy and their research. And Josh and I had a ball last summer. We had a great time. What's great for me is being a fish spotter, and for 40 plus seasons, to do my job, I had to find fish, and the guys who I was flying for had to catch them. The beauty of what we're doing now is you don't have to catch anything. You just get to look at it. It's a lot of fun. Josh and I have had a great time together, and we certainly hope to continue it. I think we will.
Yeah, that is something. Oh, you can go, Josh.
No, go ahead. I'm just agreeing with you, Wayne.
And I think, yeah, and I think that's something great to note. That relationship between you guys in doing those ecotourism trips in partnership with the Atlantic White Shark Conservancy. This being Career Week, and a lot of people are wondering, well, how can I work in shark conservation but not maybe wearing that typical scientist hat? And this is one way, that people are doing it right now, is we are running those ecotourism trips where Wayne and Josh are working together to put guests and on seeing these amazing animals, the white sharks in our ocean. And as Wayne said, being able to see them alive and moving, and not being a fisherman and maybe catching a tuna, that this is one way we are promoting that conservation of sharks, is by showing people them in their natural environment and their movements. And if we are lucky that day, maybe seeing that interaction between predator and prey as well. And so I want to kind of dive into that ecotourism bit a little bit and talk about the communication that you two have to have throughout the day to have a successful trip. So I'll lead you two into maybe Josh, if you want to talk about that communication aspect.
Sure. Well, to back up just a second, as far as careers in conservation, scientists that work on the water need rides to where they're going to work on the water. So a boat captain can be a pretty important role in research in that regard. I love science. I love paying attention to what's going on. I've learned a lot just by listening to you guys, to Greg, to Megan, anybody, the whole realm that goes around what you guys are doing. So it's really neat for me to hear it and pay attention to be a part of it. But there's definitely an avenue as far as a career goes, research boats in many different ways. So communications, this very active. I think one of the reasons that the Great White Shark expeditions between the Chatham Bars Inn and the White Shark Conservancy go so well is because Wayne and I have a good friendship and a good working relationship. We kind of anticipate each other's moves and know what's going on, know how to communicate, and that comes with time. And that's an important part of this of those trips. Wayne has to get up in the air, tell me where to go. I'm leaving the dock. I'm essentially blind. I go out and it takes me 15 to 20 minutes to get out kind of in the area where the sharks could be. And then he will direct me that direction, south or north. And then once we get a little closer, he'll have me slow down and kind of works like a clock, 12 o'clock being straight ahead, 6 o'clock being straight behind me. Sometimes I mess that up, believe it. Sorry, Wayne. He'll tell me to go right
12 o'clock.
The length of my boat is the boat in the White Shark trips is about 30 feet. So one boat length would be 30 feet to 60, things like that. So he's also gotten to the point where he knows exactly where I want to put the shark as far as the best way for me to keep track of the shark and for the guest to see it. If I can see the shark and keep the shark in that area, the guest is going to have a great opportunity to see the shark. So communication is important. I've got to drive the boat, got a hand on the throttle, hand on the wheel, and I don't have another hand to use the microphone. So it's sometimes Wayne can say things he knows I'm not going to call him back, but he'll put me there. And I'm really grateful for that relationship where we kind of understand what's going on. Very important. Communication is everything.
Yes, for sure. And I think that relationship, you guys, has turned into a friendship. You guys spent a month together earlier this year in New Zealand, correct? Yeah. So you guys, I loved following yours to adventure throughout that whole month time frame. And maybe, when we are allowed to travel again, I'm going to definitely take notes from you guys and go over to New Zealand myself. But I want to go into some of the other things that you can see from the air, and going back to Wayne. So other than seeing, these white sharks from the sky, Wayne, you've also been able to spot other kinds of animals from the sky as well. So I just pulled up a couple photos that you have taken of some sea turtles, whales, and sharks. And can you go into it when you are out and being a spotter, what are those key things that you're looking for to find those animals?
Actually, the job of, working for the Conservancy is finding sharks. So, that upper left picture there is it's kind of an atypical shot because the water is so clear and it's quite obvious what it is. It's a great white shark in shallow water, but it just entails me flying up and down the beach, starting as close as I can to home there, where either Josh or the research boat is coming out of Chatham Harbor, and working up and down the beach until you find a shark, and then bringing them along. But along the way, there's, along the Cape shores, there's just so much to look at. Whales and fishermen and birds. The place is totally alive. That lower left picture is the 2 humpback whales I took a shot of last summer. Just probably only about 3/4 of a mile northeast of the Nauset Inlet, and they were going into a pile of pogies to eat, which was my nicest shot that that I think was my best shot from last summer. And that other one there is a leatherback turtle with a little entourage of tropical fish around him, which I think are probably rudder fish, pilot fish, or something like that. And I took that last summer too. That was in Cape Cod Bay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think it's incredible for someone to be able, as they're flying, to be able to identify these different species from the air. Wayne, I've heard you over the radio saying, "Oh, there's a minke whale like over here, and there's a humpback whale over there. Or I can see a mola," or you can like identify just sea turtles from the air. So I definitely think that's incredible that you have been able, to develop that eye and be able to spot those different species, and even different species of sharks as well. You've been able to identify while flying.
Oh yeah, well there are no other kind of sharks along the beach, along the Cape at all in the summertime, except an occasional basking shark. You got to get out into the deeper water before you find blue sharks, makos, and tiger sharks and stuff like that, way offshore. But it's flying up and down the beach looking for sharks for the Conservancy. It's really quite easy. Most of the time, all that you do see are sharks, and you get a little ways off the beach and you'll find stuff like not too far away, a lot of whales just offshore.
Yeah, and it's definitely easy to find sharks when there is that predation happening. So I wanted to show a photo of one of those you got from the sky as well. So, it's really easy. Well, I would assume it's easy to spot a predation while looking for that blood plume there. So would you agree? Is there something different?
Oh yeah, it's quite obvious when it's going on. I've developed a technique in the last few years. Usually when I'm working with the boat, steering the boat onto a shark close by, I'm very focused on a very small area, like where the shark is in relation to the boat, which is close to like this. This shark is at 9:30 in a boat and a half, and for years, well, this will be our 7th summer coming up. I would just be focused on those sharks in the water near the boat. But in the last couple of summers, I've started looking over my shoulder a lot on the periphery of my circle, looking far up and down the beach, looking for that telltale blood plume. And it's worked out a couple of times. I found a couple, like maybe 3/4 of a mile away from where we are working. And had I not been looking over my shoulder, it takes me a long time to figure things out anyway. It took me a while to figure out that I should be looking up and down the beach as I make my circle with the boat. So that's helped. And especially what I found last summer, I think we saw quite a few more predations last summer just by polishing up that technique a little bit.
Yeah, well, it is definitely paid off. And we do have a question coming in from the people watching. They want to know, Wayne, what is the plane that you fly? Like, what is that specific make, model?
It's a Citabria. It's called a 7GCBC is the model number. My plane was made in 1969, so it's official and antique. And 2-seat, 4.5 seating, 150 horsepower engine, cruises along in 100 knots or so. And I regularly fly fish spotting, kind of slow, 70 knots, covering the inshore waters slowly, so I get a good look at things. Easy to handle, very, very agile, move around, and it's got great observation, both windows open, either side, and I got a great big viewing space out either side of the plane. And the picture of me taking a picture, I usually shoot out my left side because just the way my elbows sit when I'm bent over, it works much better out the left side. So, what else?
Awesome.
It's pretty simple.
Yeah. And then going into, Josh, we'll start with you for this next question, but I just simply want to know, what is the favorite part of your job?
My office, being on the water, closely followed by sharing the experience of being on the water with other people. I grew up, it's kind of unique, not to get too long-winded in my answer, but it's being outside, being on the water. I grew up on the Cape. I grew up in these waters. I know them very well. And when I can share that to someone, I try to make them, I have a little goal every day. I try to connect with at least one person. I want to like have someone walk away with like, okay, that was awesome. And I'm going to carry that with me forever. I try to do that one time, at least one time a day. So if I can share an experience with somebody or show them a horseshoe crab or a whale or a certain kind of bird, it doesn't matter what it is. It's just it's a really cool environment to be in and to be outside and to have a career where you're outside floating around on a boat is pretty cool.
Yeah. And then Wayne, what about you? What's your favorite part of your position?
Looking for, something extra special. And, I do get a real kick out of sharing what I see with what we fishermen call normal people, non-fishermen. And there's just so much out there. Like I told you about those two humpback whales going into that school of pogies. You just get to see things and convey what you see to people who have no idea what's out there. And believe me, the average person anywhere, landlubbers just have no idea of the amount of what's out there and the variety and the ever-changing scenery and the stupendous beauty that is Cape Cod. That's why I'm doing the job. I just thoroughly, most pilots are addicted to flying because of the view, whether they know it or not. It's just it's always changing, and you get a perspective of the dirt that you're walking around on from high above, and it's at times exhilarating. It's exciting. It's can be a little dangerous sometimes. It's sketchy. I can remember being out. We spent one entire day down off Monomoy. I think it was the year before last, summer of 18, and there was a huge bunch of thunderstorms going over Orleans all day long. And I had my eye on them in the airport, which was only 5 miles away, all day long. I'm ready to bolt for the airport that whole day. And had I known how horrible that weather was, they had hurricane force winds that day up at Orleans. And there we are out bobbing around in the ocean, me and my airplane. Had I known how bad it was, I think I would have gone on the ground and put my plane in a hangar. But it's exciting anyway.
Yeah. And I think that's something important to note that both of you two said is that, it's that joy of showing people what is around us here off of Cape Cod. And that is something that, I've been really extremely lucky to experience that with both of you guys. Josh, you were the first person to show me bubble feeding last year with humpback whales. And that was amazing. And I still get so excited just even thinking about that day last year. And, Wayne, flying with you, that was my first time really flying in that sort of way. I've done like commercial airlines, but that, experience that was really awesome for me to experience that with you, see sharks from the air. So definitely that is, I think, something important to note. This job is definitely rewarding and, showing people how awesome, our backyard here is in Cape Cod and what animals that are around in that area. And then, so to round out our interview today, is there anything you two would like to add? Maybe something I didn't ask you guys would like to know about your careers? Any advice that you would like to give to anyone that would maybe like to be a captain or a pilot?
Go ahead, Josh.
Okay. I was thinking about that the other day when I was kind of trying to think up some of the questions. One of the things that's, getting a captain's license is a little involved. It's a process that takes a while. But I didn't become a captain until I think it was 23 or 24. So I wasn't, wasn't super young. I wasn't, as young, but you want to keep track of all your sea time, what we call it sea time when you're a captain. And it's going to be important as you go further down into your career. And when you renew, a captain's license is valid for 5 years. And when you go to renew your captain's license, you need to show that you've been on a boat X amount of time in over that 5-year period. So when you start to go for your initial captain's license, whether you're 16 years old, 17 years old, and when you're younger, you want to keep track of that time. You go out on your grandfather's boat, your father's boat, your friend's boat, you work on a whale watch boat, or you want to write it down. Keep a little diary. Keep a diary, write your stuff down. And as you become more serious about it, get in touch with you know, if you get a mentor, if you get somebody, my mentor is a guy named Mike Allard, fantastic gentleman, and started me in this direction. And I was able to write his name down, his boat's information, get all that information together, and put it towards my captain's license to get that seat time. You need to have X amount of time to be qualified to get that license. So keep track of your seat time, write everything down, take pictures, probably do it on your phone, all that stuff. So if there's one little piece of advice I'd say to someone being a captain, keep track of your info and look into it, and find somebody like me, find somebody that's a captain, come to Chatham Bars and say, hey Josh, how do I get my license? That kind of thing. Start early, and it's awesome. Do it.
Wayne, how about you? Any advice?
Advice, yeah. Start young. You know, anybody who's interested in aviation, of course, you know, the aviation I do it's like highly restricted. So there are very, very few opportunities to do anything in it. But, you know, if you've got a mind to want to fly an airplane and look at the water, you know, start young. And kids, you know, math, the sciences, physics, to get you, and of course the environment. You can, you know, if you're interested in all those things and become well versed in what's out there, it will lead you along to something that's, you know, what you've been looking forward to do. It's amazing to me, you know, where I started as a little kid in a fishing village. Of course, I went fishing, and you know, being a World War II brat, watched a lot of war movies and airplanes flying. I was always intrigued with airplanes, and never, ever in my younger days did I ever imagine that I would be doing what I am doing now. So when you get a passion and you stick with it, and it's something that's worthwhile to you and others, it will almost certainly lead to something good. And you know, study all your systems along the way, and know your machine. Be diligent, take pictures, as Josh said, record what you do, and it all comes together. You know, I've been on an amazing ride. I'd like to stretch it out another few years.
Awesome. Thank you guys for that great advice. And we do have one more question from the people watching. So for both of you guys, either when you are boating or flying, do you guys listen to music or a podcast or anything? And if so, what are you listening to?
You want to start, Wayne?
Yeah, no, I listen to nothing except Josh and John, and just looking around. I'm busy enough with my senses trying to do what I'm trying to do. Although I think about getting tuned into Sirius XM now and then, but I just don't. There's just so much going on that you can pay attention to, and plus I have to eat all day, so.
Josh, what?
As far as me, let's see. That depends. There's two answers to the question. One answer was when I'm working. If my guests on the boat want to listen to the stereo, by all means, but that's their decision and what they're controlling. You know, I'm just like Wayne. I need to listen to my communications, my radio. I got to hear my engine, so I don't have anything overpowering what I'm doing. But if I'm not working, one of my favorite things to do is to take the boat out. I used to do this on my own all the time. To go out, put a rod over the side, and turn the Red Sox on, listen to a baseball game. That's if I'm going to listen to something on the water. That's pretty fun, pretty relaxing.
Yeah. Hopefully this summer we will have the Red Sox back or some sort of sports back, so you are able to do that. But thank you guys again for joining us today and talking about your careers. I definitely enjoyed talking to you guys and hearing some things that I never knew about you guys before. So thank you guys for joining us. Any last words before we sign off?
I got them right here in the slot, Josh. 3 boats.
Awesome.
I like it. I can't wait to hear that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, looking forward to get back in the water.
Yes, looking forward to it as well. Thank you guys for joining us today for our live stream with Captain Josh Higgins and Pilot Wayne Davis. Bye, guys.
Thanks, Preston. Always nice seeing your smiling face.
Oh, thanks, Wayne. You too.
Off to the Conservancy, guys. Thanks for being so active during this time. It's nice to have something to turn to. Good job.
Awesome. Thanks, Josh. Okay. Bye, y'all.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.